Hello again, everyone. This is Game Collector, and as mentioned last week, I would be bringing up one of Scourge's superiors. This one being the 2000s. Let me check the year again. 2009 re-release of the Target Master Cyclonus, and he is a purple reverse swept wing alien space fighter jet with a giant gun on top. The gun on top can be removed as simple as that. Now, as in a scale of sense, this is Scourge, Cyclonus. Get an idea of how big or how wide they are compared to one another. And in order to do so, I have to raise the camera up. And that's just a demonstration of how big they are side by side in vehicle mode. Now, there are a few things I'm going to comment while I transform him eventually, and also, this is his little Target Master partner, Nightstick. And yes, it's a Target Master. Okay, in the late 80s, or the mid-80s, right after the third season, when things ultimately failed, at least I think they were, I wasn't really around then, around that time, they decided to bring Optimus Prime back, and right after doing so, they had a at least I think it was either 3 or 5 parts, where several for a couple of small groups of Transformers to be altered. These were the Target Masters and the Headmasters. Scourge and Cyclonus became Target Masters, which means they got a little partner, or a Nebulon, that could turn into a gun. So far, this is the one and only modern Target Master figure. But to give you an idea, this is his Target Master Nightstick. Essentially, these guys were the Minicons before Minicons, and if you do happen to find someone or have had an old Target Master Headmaster toy, chances are the Headmasters don't have heads and the Target Masters don't have guns. That is a very common issue with the originals. Unless, they kept them in their package or, had them safe or something. I don't know. 90% of the time I would find a Headmaster at a yard sale with no head. I still don't understand how that would have ever happened. But moving on, we'll put Nightstick off to the side. I will be reviewing him a little bit as part of this because he is an accessory and his own figure. First of all, we push in that nose cone and push in the landing gear, and then you separate these. And right after separating those, you go right to these bits right here, and you pull back like that on that back piece, and pull like that there, and connect them together. But before you do that, you pull these bits out, and you form the feet. I do have to say, for being a toy from 2009, his joints are still quite nice and tight. Mostly, the knees are a little loose, but, and now he can stand up a bit. Now, I'm going to raise it up here. Now, on these points here, I had trouble with them because they kept falling off, literally right off of the round joints. So if I move this, it would just go pop. And these little connector parts here, if you can see, this one is a little white. Yeah, you can see some white stuff there. That would be because I had to glue this one because this one wasn't thick enough for when I did this. See? Now, yeah, you connect it like that and then you flip the arm piece down. Now, you see how nice and tight that is? Now, before I put super glue on this. Before I did that, this would just slide right off. That's not good. Now, with this side, I didn't have to do anything, so I'm going to show you the other arm transformation, and see, it's not coming out. It is wiggling a little, but not enough for it to be an issue. This one would just slide right off without really any effort. So that was something of a problem. And now it looks like a reverse swept-wing fighter with legs. I'm sure no one will get in trouble for that problem at all. At all. But that can be fixed by, whoops. See, I shouldn't have pegged the arms in yet. So, yeah, unpeg the arms, because I completely forgot about this step. You fold this in and turn his head around. And, of course, it helps when they're unpegged to unclip this wing section here. And pull the arm down. And to do the exact same thing on this side. And fold these wings back. Then peg them in. And, of course, you can fold out the fists. But I'm going to fold out the left fist to show it to you, but I'm going to fold it back in because he only has one hand for holding. He only has one holding thing hand. Yeah. And there he is in his normal robot mode, but I'm not finished yet. And he's a very nice figure. But you just take this hand and fold it back in because I'm going to set him off to the side. I'm just going to give you a quick look at his little target master real quick. His little arm can rotate 360 degrees. Both arms can because they're on a single peg. Little elbows can bend too. He has no knees, but he does have thighs. So I can raise that up. And he also has a little toe joint, I suppose. Also, he has this giant thing in his abs. But of course, you know, who cares? So now, we're just going to go whoop, whoop, click, whoop. And now he's back to being a gun. Now there are two I suppose there are two transformation settings for this. You can have it with the arms back or you can have it with the arms flat. Either way, it's a giant three-barreled gun which you can fit into Cyclonus's right hand. Now, if you're not into that and you don't want to lose him, you can just stick him on Cyclonus's back for weapon storage. Like so. So it gives him a giant radio antenna or a giant gun barrel on his back. Or there's a third thing you can do, because he only has like one hand to hold things with. You can always just see that little hole right there? This is not mentioned in his toy instructions, by the way. And this little peg right here, you can, this was a sort of a gimmick. I don't remember if it was actually featured on the Japanese version of the toy or in the Headmaster's anime, but you can connect the gun to the arm, and this works with either arm, and the connection is rather loose, so be careful. With a little bit of, it's relying entirely on friction there. You can give him a gun arm and still leave his hand open for, say, another gun, which I am now fetching. Well, technically I'm just getting it from another figure, a conveniently placed Scourge. And now, right in there like that. Maybe I should take that clip off first. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have added that clip, because it just makes things harder. And there, now he can hold one gun, have a gun arm, dual wielding, yeah! Yeah, there you go, he has 2 guns with 3 barrels each. I gotta say, I actually like him with the gun arm, rather than having, like, well, rather having them to have, you know, having the gun in this hand and having a hand that can do absolutely nothing useful. Hence why this hand is normally the gun hand and this hand is just a hand. I gotta say, I really like I can make a useless hand with no hole in it actually useful by putting that gun in the one slot. Now, in a moment, I'm getting another figure ready so I can do a height comparison together. Mostly because it is sort of relevant, because the next review I do after Cyclonus will probably be my last review for a little bit. I might take a week off. I might not. Who knows? Or I might go on to something else entirely. So as soon as I get this guy ready, I'm sorry for the delay, and it just makes me talk more about the figure. And probably the history about it, because, yeah. Cyclonus, amongst arguments amongst fans, was created from one of the Decepticon corpses floating through space, if you remember the 1986 movie, created by Unicron, alongside both Scourge and Galvatron. He became Galvatron's number 2, and unlike Starscream, he not only did not try to stab Galvatron in the back, he was competent. So had he actually stabbed Galvatron in the back, he probably would have made a better leader, considering how loco and how el muy loco Galvatron was. And almost ready with that. Come on. And now he's ready to be displayed next to. Just for another height comparison, from last week we had Scourge. This week we have Cyclonus, and this is how big they are side by side. Scourge is a little short compared to his partner in crime. So there is kind of this recurring theme with triple-barreled guns. Cyclonus gets away with being taller not only because of his shoulders, but also because of his helmet horns. I'm sure Scourge is looking at Cyclonus being jealous because he does not have a gun. And now, Scourge, go away now. That aside, as you can tell, he has an elbow joint. Full 360 shoulder joint. And with the wing out of the way, he can make it go out. And he also has an elbow swivel. So you can turn the gun, sort of. That wing kind of helps. I like having the wing there so I can adjust the arm a little bit. Especially when you bend it at the elbow. He has a thigh swivel. Both legs, of course. And the knee joint. Though it is kind of hard if you press on this part. It makes the legs split. Doesn't so much on the right leg. It does so on the left leg. But of course, that's just my figure. And of course, once I get him steady, head can rotate 360 degrees. And I do not have my flashlight with me, but he does have red light piping, as you probably saw when all the shots of the back of his head. Scrooge also has light piping, which I did not mention in the previous review, but the box art shows him with red eyes, and sadly he actually has blue eyes. Which is wrong. He should have red eyes, because he's a Decepticon. G1 rules. Bad guys, red eyes, good guys, blue eyes. You know, unless you're like friggin' Metroblex, who always had red eyes. Way to screw up. Anyway, I also have his bio card here, and part of it is torn. Because, you know, this was during the time that Hasbro was having this whole thing with taping everything so much. Some of the boxes still stick together because of the residue on there. Thankfully, this one isn't as bad as the others are. It's still sticky, but, you know, yuck. Now, as for the missing lines, the lines that I'm going to read off now are, focuses all of his energy on ensuring that Galvatron is obeyed with, or rather without question, by those under his command. There. Those are the only lines that are missing from there because of that giant tear from the tape that Hasbro had to go all crazy with. Now that those lines are out of the way, and hopefully I won't need to repeat myself again, and his stats are Strength 8, Intelligence 8, Speed 9, Endurance 8, Rank 9, Courage 9, Fire Blast or Firepower 7, and Skill 7. And apparently he's a hypersonic starfighter, which doesn't really make sense when you're out in space. Because, you know, sound can't travel in a vacuum, so how do you go hypersonic in a place where sound does not matter? I suppose if you called it a hyperdrive. But that's a completely different subject. And next week, I'm going to show all of you the one Decepticon who enjoys berating and shooting at his own troops more than Megatron does, and fills these two with fear. Well, at least this guy with fear. I think this guy enjoys being beat up by him too much, though. Just think about that. Well, this has been another Transformers review by Game Collector. I will see you all next week. Later.